Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Charlie, and today we're going to go over the the entirety of this winter storm. Really, it's already getting started. This is not a model loop. This is an observed loop. So this is well underway across many regions. We're going to kind of do some nowcasting with this, maybe, but really just kind of look into the future a little bit with areas further to the east and see what some expected totals could be. So like this video if you like it, subscribe if you've not done so already, and please comment where you're watching from. It'd be greatly appreciated. So we're going to start this off right here, and we see this massive snow shield. I don't think all of this is hitting the ground. I think some of these areas, it's too dry. Could be the same up here. But in general, a lot of snow. Then we have this kind of secondary area of energy getting going here over western Texas. A lot of freezing rain and sleet. This has been modeled pretty well so far, although maybe a little bit larger than anticipated. A very large sleet corridor, and the radar can have trouble determining what is what, but I think it's doing a pretty good job. Sleet's going to show up in this pink color, and then freezing rain is kind of red. So a lot of freezing rain. There already been plenty of reports and images being shared from areas of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi of ice accretion on objects. So this is really real. Pay attention to this. So not that. Let's go here. So this is the latest from the National Weather Service. We have ice storm warnings up in this purple. These are some of the highest criteria warnings here. But some of these pink here, these winter storm warnings that kind of encompass the whole thing, have some pretty high criteria in them as well. So these are winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings, and then we have in blue. I actually got this wrong. I've said this a few times. This blue is our winter weather advisories. Those are a step above winter storm watches. So these are still winter storm watches. You might get upgraded to advisories or possibly warnings. We'll see. Same with these, but this event is already ongoing, so that's the latest from them. How about what the radar could look like? I've made this look about as good as I can, change the color maps around. You can do that in Aguacero Weather. I highly recommend you check it out. Not affiliated with them or anything, but it's a pretty cool site when it works. But we start this off. This is this morning's run of the HRRR, and we're getting, this is right about now. I think it's picking up on everything pretty well. This frame right here looks very, very real, doesn't it? Almost looks almost like an observation. This is modeled, but we continue this out. Let's just get going. And right in here, this is midnight Central Time, 1 a.m. Eastern Time tonight. This is right out in front of us. We have cold air careening down from the north into this cold air damming. We have very, very heavy, almost convective looking freezing rain showers all the way from San Antonio up through Dallas, Little Rock, Memphis, up to Nashville. You might switch to rain, then back to winter weather. Pretty aggressive warm nose here. Warm air coming up from the Gulf and a surface low that will develop. But look at this snow, guys. I think most of this is probably hitting the ground at this point. Let me pick a different color. Do this. Most of this is probably hitting the ground at this point because it's moist, and just this is a very, very large snow band. We'll go over snow totals here from the HRRR in a second. But let's just continue this on here. We just this is just it continues on. Let's just get, this is 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. You're starting to wake up. Number one, church is probably canceled for most of you guys that you see encompassed on this map here. Let's just be honest. Cold air damming still hanging on here, although some moisture, it might leave the area. Our cold air damming looks like this. So it might be a little bit drier down through the Midlands, South Carolina, southern Georgia. We'll have to see. There has been some talk about there possibly being like a freezing mist almost. Just kind of like, think about an average rainy day, and you kind of have just a small rain, small tiny raindrops falling, little radar returns. That's going to actually stick better because it's falling slower. It has more time to stick on things before it freezes. And freezing rain is just normal rain that freezes on contact. So just because, I'll use a different color, just because you live down in here, for example, don't think that you're not getting some sort of frozen precipitation because it's cold enough. And yeah, so let's move on here. Let's take a slightly more zoomed in look. Let's just go through the morning hours and then to noon. This is not noon, by the way. Noon was back here. This is the afternoon. The sun's starting to go down at this point. Still hanging on to a lot of freezing rain back across the Carolinas and Georgia. We'll look at your totals in a second. Heavy freezing rain bands still getting into Kentucky here. Don't know if we'll get that far north. We have mixing all the way to rain up near um, Pennsylvania. I don't know if we'll get that quite that far north, but this is right out in front of us, so I have reason to think it's somewhat believable. And yeah, we just have a very, very broad, comma looking classic uh, snow shield up here, dropping very, very heavy rates. The ratios, snow ratios, typically are about 10 to 1. So for every 1 inch of liquid precipitation rain that would have fallen, you've got 10 inches of snow. These rates could be closer to like 20 to 1 in some regions. So very efficient snowfall in a lot of these areas. No snow areas further south, though. This has really gone away. If you didn't know that already, this is the HRRR has a band of possibly severe weather rolling through just east of Birmingham, Montgomery, approaching Atlanta here. Although, watch what it does as it moves east. As it gets into these cold air damming regions, it continues on. You can see this line, but it's freezing rain. I think the HRRR does a really, really good job holding on to that cold air damming. Because, one thing that local meteorologists often say is don't underestimate that cold air damming wedge. It's often stronger and lasts longer than ever modeled. So the HRRR is doing pretty well with it. It doesn't really ever erode it. And then we have some back end snow possibly getting going over the Appalachians. So if this will animate normally, I'm going to let it animate and just so it looks pretty. You can see these regions, the Northeast getting hammered with snow on this run. And I don't think it's a this run thing. I think it's this storm thing. And just, look at this, but there's a lot of rain to the south. I'm not really concerned about flooding down here necessarily, but some pretty high rainfall rates in these areas. So what do we have next? This is freezing rain. So let's go over this. From the HRRR, I think it has a pretty good handle. Although, here is the latest for sleet. I think some of these are overdone, as in a lot of them, especially areas further west. I think let's just do a little drawing. Some of these areas could end up with more snow, and some of these areas could end up with more freezing rain than this. But either way, it doesn't take away one bit from your freezing rain totals. This is devastating in a lot of areas. This is a model. I mean, these things can change, and this isn't perfect, but it almost doesn't matter. This is so close to us, and this closely matches what we're seeing from the National Weather Service. Areas on this color map that you see in blue, you know what? I'm going to edit it for you and show you how I can do this. So you see all these different color maps here, but I'm gonna use this one. Kind of highlights the stronger areas a little bit better. So these regions in here and these regions in here are the hardest hit across the entire U.S. That's been that way. There's little like pockets you might be thinking up here in northern Arkansas. Like, what didn't mention us? Yeah, but like the more widespread, just heavy freezing rain totals are in these areas. I don't think you have much of a chance over in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Alabama, Arkansas, into here. These regions. I don't think you have much of a chance in that circle to switch to sleet and save you from the freezing rain. I just, your temperature profiles are just, I don't think you're going to get that. So let's move over here a little bit. I got some consistent viewers in this area. So let's show a little bit of love to this area. We have, north of Interstate 85, a very strong corridor of freezing rain being modeled here and expected. I mean, let's say it how it is. This area has, I would say, a greater than 90 or 95% chance of seeing a crippling ice storm, as most of these areas do. And this darker shade here, and obviously it continues on. I mean, just because I drew it in this area doesn't mean it doesn't continue. It goes all the way up to Richmond here. So maybe zoom out a little bit, but these areas here, just crippling ice is expected. The only thing that might save us here is sleet. Now, the HRRR does not do well with sleet. It doesn't show it as well. Let's select it here. So it puts the sleet in this area much further north. This is believable, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. It does way more with freezing rain We can look at snow in this area alone. We'll zoom out in a second. No snow expected. It also tells me it's not picking up on sleet either because they're typically similar. That's enough yapping about that. Very dangerous looking ice totals in this area, especially over here in Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana. You've got ice storm warnings up, and you got them for a reason. HRRR nails the corridor of the heaviest. Let's use this, and then I swear I just clicked. Yeah, here we go. There we go. The ice storm warnings closely match this kind of area here of just the heaviest freezing rain. Areas in blue on this color map are over an inch, at or above an inch. There's areas inch and a quarter expected. So let's move on to snow. This is the HRRR because I think it has a pretty good handle on it. This is its model ratio. Notice how this might change when I select 10 to 1. It's similar but kind of different. Compare that to, say, this. It's a lot more beefed up. This is what I believe is going to happen. I'm confident enough in this. Areas further to the west, you already started. So north of Oklahoma City, you still might get more. I mean, it's already ongoing. But along the Ohio River, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Ohio, up to Pennsylvania, almost the entire state of Pennsylvania is good for, the entire state is good for measurable snow. A lot of New York state and the New York City is good. You might mix a little bit. Don't worry too much about that. And then we have, all of New England here with just insane totals here, a foot and a half in most regions. So that is the latest. Down here, further to the south, let's look at if you're in Arkansas, north of Conway, more measurable. South of Conway, this is measurable, but this is probably some sleet and freezing rain kind of being picked up on here. Dallas, a few, maybe, but this is ongoing. And then areas further east, the deep south states, Mississippi, you're much more a freezing rain state with this. Alabama, some snow in the northern areas. This is probably sleet. Same with Georgia. South Carolina is entirely not touched except for this one little pixel right here. Don't worry about that. It's kind of a joke almost. And then north of Raleigh-Durham starts to get into some measurable snow. This is probably sleet. Virginia's got a lot of snow. Delaware, New Jersey, measurable snow. But, on the southern areas, you might switch. Just like this. This, you might switch, but this is, again, mostly snow. But look at the snow in these areas. I think we have a kind of a chance in some of these regions of northern North Carolina to see some worse overall impacts, not necessarily just for power outages or anything, but you're getting some snow. Let me use this. I'll leave that there. You're getting some snow in this region, some sleet in this region, which are probably actually pretty similar, and then a lot of freezing rain, over half an inch in almost the entire circle. That's pretty bad. Areas further south, say the upstate South Carolina region, we're just dealing more with freezing rain here. But nonetheless, very impactful system. What about some expected totals? Let's start west, move east a little bit. This is the most highlighted region. Grenada, you're up to an inch and 3/10 is what you're expected to get. I'm going to reload this just in case they didn't update it. This is a few hours old. No, they did. No, they didn't change really anything here. This is really, really bad, to put it lightly. It could be breezy in this area, 20s and 30s for wind gusts, miles per hour, across most of these regions, as well as this much ice. You might even have some sleet and snow mixed in to start off with, if you haven't already. This is terrible. I'm praying for you guys. Hope you guys can come out all right, but it does not look like you're going to be spared from much. It looks like the atmosphere really just unleashes on this area. Your high-end amounts here are pretty similar, to be honest. They're not really a whole lot different. You can see these areas, Grenada, Greenville, Clarksdale, Tupelo, even up to Memphis with really, really damaging amounts. Memphis has dropped off significantly from the heaviest. I think you might get more sleet and snow than freezing rain, so be thankful for that because your neighbors further east aren't. This is a broad look at the Carolinas. This was really recently updated, like a few minutes ago. So this is recent, and we have areas in half an inch or more in this dark region here. Another kind of whatever. Don't worry too much about that. You can see the actual listed totals here. And then what about high end amounts? Again, there's a very obvious corridor with the highest potential here. Well, if you're going to do it, let's do it right. Very, Interstate 85 corridor here. is really it. Atlanta, you're on the high end. Let's go back and name a few cities. Atlanta, you're at a quarter of an inch right now. Athens, you're at 3/10. Augusta, you're at 2/10. Columbia's at 3. You guys kind of ticked up a little bit. Orangeburg down here is kind of at almost 2/10. We get over to Fayetteville, 3/10, up to Greenville, you know, almost 2/10. But really, it's just Central North Carolina points into the western sections. So a little bit closer of a look, since I do have some loyal viewers in this area, in this map right here. This is a closer look. I think these totals might be even conservative, but I think this is a really, really good graphic. This is areas 3/4 of an inch or more. The dark purple is an inch or more. And then obviously this darker, almost burgundy red color here is areas 1/2 an inch or more. I think that this, honestly, they might expand this a little bit. I think, to be completely honest, based on what I've seen model guidance wise, I think we have an area along here. If we get enough training freezing rain showers, let's do this right, we could get more than this. But they're assuming some sleet will mix in and take some totals down. So here's our high end amount. Devastating. Let me reiterate how bad this is. Just briefly here. I don't want to go on and on. For those of you who don't know, we had a hurricane come up like this. Hurricane Helene back in 2024. And so it shows up well. These areas here got about 30 inches of rain. 20 inches easy, but 30 inches, in a lot of areas because the mountains are there. And those eastern and southeastern facing slopes really wring out all the moisture. And then, areas down in here, we got like 9 to 18 in areas. A lot of rain. And then it was windy. So our tree damage was bad. We, at my house, the place I'm making this video from, we did okay. But a lot of our neighbors, a lot of our friends, other family members didn't do as well. And it was a very high impact event. So we have a lot of tree damage. In this area, compromised trees, compromised root systems, trees that have died. We saw that. Our backyard has some trees that have passed away since the hurricane. And this is, if you get this much ice, this is really, really, really heavy. And then you get breezy conditions on top of that. It's just a recipe for disaster and extended power outages. Be prepared if you live in here for days without power, possibly up to a week, and even more in some of the more isolated areas here. This is the latest image. This is ahead of schedule a little bit, you might be thinking. You look in Tennessee, mountains, North Carolina, and you see some blues, some snow showing up. It is showing up on radar, but notice that the beam is sent into the atmosphere at an angle, so this is higher up. This is not right at the surface, and I think it's a little dry. Temperature dew point spreads at my house right now are near 20 degrees. So that's not going to get the job done yet, but we will start to saturate. Our cold air damming will come down from the north today as the day goes on. The temperatures, this will be one of those days, if you live in here, where it gets cooler as the day goes on. It's slightly warming right now. It's staying right at about 40 degrees. But that's the latest from that. I want to go back here. Just a huge storm. But the reason I pulled this up is I'm going to reload the page. Going to take a second to load. Most likely. But I'm going to show you, based off of the HRRR, I think it has a pretty good handle on this, what it is thinking for maximum wind gusts, accumulated wind gusts, just right above the surface. Select the right run here. So again, I hate this color map. I'm going to change it to this one. And then I'm going to make sure. All right, there we go. All right, so let's look in some of these ice areas here and just pull this out. You might not be seeing any of these reds. Please don't. I hope we don't see reds. Except for the ridge tops show up well on this map. But say in the Greenville-Spartanburg area, the I-85 corridor here, we're good for at least 20, 25 mile per hour wind gusts. Some areas down here getting mid-30s. That is not good in any way, shape, or form. Same over here in Mississippi, along these areas that get the most ice. Mid to upper 20s are expected when it comes to wind gust. I don't know if I have a pivotal weather tab open other than this one. Let's do this real quick. I think they have I have 24-hour max wind gusts. We're going to zoom in. We'll use this one. So this is the areas that expect the most ice. So areas of Mississippi, they're being, I think, a little bit conservative. I think it might be a little breezier. Areas over here, though, 20s expected. This is what they're calling for. This is the National Weather Service. How about ice-wise? This is what they're calling for. I think these are really, really, really conservative values over here. That's why I didn't even try to pull this up earlier. Yes, these areas are still highlighted, but like a quarter inch in GSP 19 in Anderson, 1900s, it just is not. I think we're getting more than that. I think we're safe for way more than that. And so does the National Weather Service. So it's weird that they have this and they also have this. But they do. It's not the end of the world. Just pay attention. Ultimately, be safe, okay? Not a good one. We have, if you're in areas of the eastern U.S., you have time, a few hours to prepare, but be safe in your preparation. If you have a generator, use it safely. Don't put it inside. Don't put it in your garage. Put it at least 20 feet away from any entrance to your house or air entrance, like a fan that's going to pull air into your house. Don't want to get carbon monoxide poisoning. That kills people every year. Don't travel if at all possible. These roads will be absolutely terrible to drive on. If this total right here is half wrong, guys, and the models are catastrophically off, this is still terrible. That's what I want you to gain from this. If this frame right here, we get Oxford, Mississippi right here with 1.1 inches. That's a little over half an inch. That is still beyond impactful, getting into devastating category. Same over here. So please be safe. I'll probably get a video out this evening if I have time, but I may be preparing, and I don't know. I don't think we'll lose power this early over here, eastern U.S. areas, but who knows? The weather's done weirder things before. So there's the latest frame, and I will see you in the next one.